Hello soulmates, want to make a quick video on how to make a bishop collar. So the first thing first you need to do, you might have joined the shoulders of whatsoever you're working with, either a top or a gown, whatsoever you're working on. You first of all join the shoulders of the material you're working on. Then after joining the shoulders, just measure the shoulders round. Measure it round. You can see what I'm doing from the front to the back. You measure it round. I'm actually working on a chef jacket. That's what I'm making with bishop collar. So after measuring it round, I got 18. Now the 18, I will divide the 18 by 2 because my paper is on fold, right? My paper is folded into 2, so I will divide it by 2. So now I will get half of the 18 inches will give me 9 inches, right? So I will measure my 9 inch from the edge of the paper as shown in the video. So after measuring my 9 inch, now from that straight line I rule as a guide, I'm coming down by 1 inch. Now this is to give us the curve that we need for this collar, because it doesn't have to just be straight. If it's straight, it's not going to lay well on our shoulder. So that's the reason for that 1 inch I went down with. So you just connect it to the edge of the paper. So after connecting it to the edge of the paper, now your measurement, your whatsoever the length of the color you're working with, it starts from the new line. You can see that I'm marking the first line away. That doesn't count anymore. What counts for me is the second line I rule straight to the 1 inch I took downwards. So the next thing to do is to determine the length of your collar. Now I'm using 1¼ because I don't want it big. So I'm using 1¼ for the length of the collar. That's the height I want for the collar to be. So you just mark your 1¼ inch, mark it along to the end of the measurement. So after you can see that I remarked my 9 inches to make sure that I'm on the right track. So after that, you just connect those lines. I'm just trimming the first line off so that it will not confuse us, for us to like be clear with what we are doing. So the next thing is to connect the lines. You can see that it's not straight, right? Yeah, it's not meant to be straight. That's the reason why we came down by 1 inch from the edge of the paper, like from the straight line I rule as a guide. So after doing this, the next thing you have to do is to curve the edge. You know, at the bone, at the neck bone area in front, it's always curved, it's not square, kind of, right? So you curve it, just curve it the way you like. So I decided to curve mine like this, but just curve your own the way you want it curve. Yours can be better than mine. So yeah, after curving it, I'm just going to cut out. So after cutting it out, the next thing I will have to do is to go and cut it on my stay. Now I'm using peplum stay. I don't have collar stay, so I'm using peplum stay for this. So I will just place it on my stay. You can see that I've cut it out on the stay. So now, after cutting it on the stay, I went ahead to iron it on my material, the material I'm working on. I went ahead to iron it. Then the material, I made sure I got 2 pieces of it, because you know you're turning. And don't forget that your stay is only meant to be on one piece of the collar. You don't put it on both sides. You put on one of it, just one of it, as you can see me do. The stay is on one piece of it. So the next thing I have to do, I'm just going to join the upper part of the upper part of the collar. I will join it together. Now what I'm doing here is because of what I'm working on. What I'm working on actually has a bias at the top part of the collar, it actually has a bias. When I finish sewing it, you'll see what exactly I'm doing. So I'll just put the bias. Now, in case you're not using a bias, right, the only thing you are meant to do is just to bring the two pieces for the collar together. Then you run your, you can see that I'm leaving 1/4 inch for my joining, like for the seam allowance, right? So you just place your pattern on your machine, then you run it. This one I'm doing is because of what I'm working on, like I said before. So yeah, it actually took me more time to actually do. So I'm just trying to place the bias in between the two materials before I run my seam on it to give me what I want. But in the absence of bias, you just put the two lines together, put the two materials together, and run the top part of the collar. So you can see what I'm doing. The bias is in between the materials I'm working on. So I'm just going to run it through until I'm done fixing the bias on it. Then I'll come and show you what it looks like. So you can see what it looks like. I've already run through it. You can see at the upper part, that's where you will run. Do you get? You run the upper part. So this is what I was actually doing with the bias. And like I said, it is because of what I'm working on. I have to use the bias to turn the upper part. So I went ahead to iron it. You can see how flat it is looking. So the next thing you have to do is to get the midpoint. So you notch it, just notch the midpoint. Then bring the material you're working on, fold it into two, and also get the midpoint, which is at the back area, like the back pattern. Fold it, notch it to get the midpoint. Then the next thing I'm going to do is to pin my collar to the shirts I'm working on. Now, don't forget that in pinning your collar, it is the part where you have the stay on that you first of all pin to the shirt or a dress, whatsoever you are working on. It is the part that has the stay that you will pin to it, because the other side you are using to turn it has to be the material, so that it will be easier for you to turn and do all of the folding that you have to do. So the part where you have the so the part where you have the material is what you pin. You can see how I'm pinning it. The part you have the collar is where you pin. Don't pin the part where you have the material. So I've already pinned and I've gone ahead to run it. I've gone ahead to sew it. You can see. So the next thing now, the other part that is just the material now is what you are folding to turn it. Now you know how we turn our skirt with band, right? The same way you do this. If you're fixing a band on your skirt, after running one side of the band around the skirt, you have to use the second part to turn it. And you turn it in a way that the stitches will only show on the inside. So you can see that this one I'm folding the material. I'm folding the material part of the collar on the inside. You can see that it is the inside of the shirt I'm working with. You can see my joinings, right? So yes, you fold it the same way I'm folding it, and you pin tightly. So you can see that it has a lot of pin. If you don't pin like this, it's not going to be stable for you. So you pin tightly so that By the time you turn it and you're sewing on it from the other side, like you will not omit any line, like you will not omit any point. So that's exactly what I did. That's why it has so many pins. So you're going to sew on the other side, the right side of it is what you're sewing on. You can see what I'm showing you with my pin. You sew on the line, that same line you use in joining the other side. It is that same line you sew on. Make sure that your stitches is on the first line, because you don't want to have another stitch showing at the back of your shirt. So yeah, same way we turn a skirt with bands, it's same method you use in fixing the collar to your shirt. So after fixing it, now this is what it looks like. You can see that there is no stitch at the back showing. It's only in on the inside you will see the stitches. So yeah, this is what it looks like. Once I'm done with the chef jacket, I will upload the video for us to see. So this is it.